Clint Eastwood. And August 3rd, 1974.
Too late.
Elton John's Caribou, spending its fourth straight week atop the album chart. I'm Brendan Brooks. And that's Rewind.
Long summer days call for extra hands. Hire fast with Indeed. Their hiring solution helps attract, interview, and hire candidates. Sponsor a job and instantly receive a short list of quality candidates whose resumes match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credits.
The Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and online at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Good morning. This is Bill Krause on a beautiful Thursday morning as we're beginning the month of August. And we're very, very pleased to have a gentleman here who is so knowledgeable and so involved and so passionate about the city of Murfreesboro. Mr. Mike Browning, who's the Public Information Officer. In fact, off air, Mike was saying coming up, he'll be celebrating 10 years with the city of Murfreesboro. This is Mike's return to visit with us after about a year plus ago. But I always like to have our guests kind of give a quick bio of themselves, where they were raised, grew up, some of their previous professional endeavors before they came to Murfreesboro. So, Mike, kind of give us a little bio about you.
Well, good morning, Bill. It's good to be with you here at WGNS. And I was born and raised in what would be called Redbird country, although I was a Cub fan. So I was born in Illinois, where my father was a Cardinal fan, and I grew up as a Cub fan because I figured I live in Illinois, I should follow the Chicago team sport. So I'm a huge baseball fan. And a little side note about that. Are you a baseball fan at all?
Yes, I've been a Cleveland Indian fan from the time I first saw Bob Feller. Wow. Believe it or not.
Yeah,
1948.
There's another team in Ohio, the Cincinnati Reds.
I've heard of them.
That my Cubs have been playing here lately, and I'm sorry to say this for the Cincinnati Reds fans, but the Cubs scored 20 runs 2 nights ago. They beat them 20-9, and then last night they beat them 16-6.
Were these home games?
These were home games in Wrigley Field.
Okay.
But the 36 combined runs for those two games broke a team record dating back to 1900.
Wow.
When I think they still used underhand pitching.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm assuming things weren't too bright in Cincinnati the last 2 nights.
No, they wouldn't be very happy. But the Cincinnati Reds are in first place in that division.
Only a half game, did I hear, over Milwaukee?
Half game over Milwaukee and about 3 over the Cubs. So,
okay.
But
so
being a baseball
grew up
fan,
in Illinois.
I grew up in Illinois and then went to school at Southern Illinois in broadcasting and spent some time in television news in multiple states, including Arkansas, Kansas, Connecticut. The last stop was here in
You were in
Arkansas
Tennessee. When Bill Clinton was governor.
Bill Clinton was governor. In fact, the first night that I moved into that state to cover politics, we were live on a primary election, and then covered him for about 5 years before returning to my hometown, Decatur, Illinois, to be a news anchor. But in the past 10 years, I've been here with the city. On the other side, what would you call it? Sometimes people would call it the dark side if you were.
I would
you were
call
in
it
the
the source
business.
side. You're a source of news rather than the conveyor of news.
And the goal is to make sure that people are well informed.
Sure.
We have a public comment period at City Hall
Talk
on
about
the first
it.
Thursday. We have 2 now. Every first Thursday of the month, council, unless it's canceled for some reason, maybe the council's not meeting. We have a period between 5:30 and 6 prior to the council meeting where people can come and talk about anything, any concern, small to big, that they have in the city. And it gives the council a chance to really know some of the things that are going on that they may not be aware of. A lot of people communicate through email and phone calls with them, but these are people who really want to address them and maybe have a conversation. So that's that half hour, and that's a long-standing commitment that the city has had. But this new one, which began July 1, allows people to come to the council during the council meeting, and tonight will be the same, on actionable items. So if there's an item on the agenda that they want to address, they just get a hold of City Hall, call City Hall. There's a public comments email, or you can just call and sign up for that, and then you will be able to address the council on one of those items that are on the agenda.
And they can identify the agenda how? How do they get the access to the agenda on the city's
Well, there's
website?
a number of ways. On the website, there's a location called Agenda where you can go and find it. But we always post it on Facebook and Twitter as well. The Facebook post for the agenda is usually maybe by Tuesday of that week because the agenda comes out on Monday. And then on Twitter, it's usually maybe a Wednesday or a Thursday that we post it there.
If one word were to describe Murfreesboro in 2023, what might that word be?
Well, growing is still the case in Murfreesboro.
And it's quality growth, I have to say. You know, you can grow, and a city can be proud of its data, statistics. Oh, we grew 12%, 18%. But when you have quality growth, a lot of your new growth is quality.
And a lot of that is attributed to a desire by the city to do planned development or the gateway district, for example, where there are specific requirements that are put in place for planning. And so if someone comes into that district along Medical Center Parkway, it extends across the interstate to some extent, then they have to follow certain guidelines in terms of the structure and the landscaping. That elevates the appearances and the quality of a development. And ever since the avenue was put into place, a lot of growth has come from that. And now you have the developer that's building Clary Park, which is across the street on Medical Center. You see that big wide open space that's under development. That's going to be like a 3 to 5 year project with the infrastructure that's going in. I think somewhere around maybe 500 to 600 living units, because there are townhomes, there are apartments, there are actually detached homes, a smaller number there, and then a lot of retail space. There will be a 7-Eleven associated with that. There is a coffee shop, and then some other restaurants that are a part of that development.
Well, for so long, Murfreesboro was lacking on restaurants, but today the quality and the quantity of restaurants of all types and nature is phenomenal.
Really no need to have to travel outside the city
not
because
at all.
you have all the variety that you would want. In fact, there's a couple new ones about ready to open in downtown Murfreesboro, one being the Korean barbecue.
Oh, really?
Which is down on the square. In fact, I think they have a beer permit application coming before the council tonight. That has not opened yet, but you know they're doing some design work inside or construction. And then the other one, which is right down the street from that, is Burl Bourbon, which is going to be like a, like what a wine bar or a beer, craft beer place is. This is going to be mainly bourbon and mixed drinks, and then also some light fare food. So
excellent.
It's nice to see that coming to downtown because it's more than just offices.
Well, when you figure, and more recently Costco came, and now you have a Buc-ee's. Have you been to Buc-ee's yet?
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that because when we first came out with the news that Buc-ee's, made a application through planning to develop there off of Joe B. Jackson Parkway, and that I think they're supposed to start construction later this year. I wondered what all the clamoring was about because the media was saying we're going to get a Buc-ee's, and what can you tell us about Buc-ee's? And I had no idea, to be real honest. But I stopped at the one in Crossville recently on a trip to East Tennessee and had one of their barbecue sandwiches. I'm sold.
The brisket,
Yeah.
And what do they tout? The restrooms are the cleanest of any service station in the country?
It's like it's almost like a Walmart gas station. The fueling station area is gigantic.
I think 75 pumps. Did I read somewhere in that?
And it is very clean and efficient. And then you can do shopping inside. But I think, for those people who are doing a lot of traveling through this area, which, of course, we get traffic with I-24. And incidentally, I heard on WGNS this morning, Bart was reporting that there was a wreck on I-24 this morning. And on the way in, I crossed over the interstate, and I noticed the traffic was still backed up. So it's going to be slow going this morning if you're heading toward Nashville.
Is it open
Yeah,
again?
it's open, but it's slow because
It's slow.
it backed up.
Absolutely.
From, I think Bart said it was at 3 this morning or somewhere around there that happened. Yeah.
We're on 24.
It's Medical Center Parkway. That
Oh.
exit 76.
Okay, because I saw it coming in
He
on
must
the
have
other
had
side of the
his
traffic.
truck up a little higher or something.
Yeah.
Those don't usually hit the bridges.
Oh,
It hit
Yeah,
the
I don't know if
bridge.
it hit an embankment or hit underneath the bridge.
That's what the description was from the sheriff's.
If it hit underneath, it must have been way too high to be traveling on the
Right.
on the
But it was a
interstate. I'm not.
it had 3 wheels on the back, so it was not
Wow.
a normal dump truck.
most hopefully it didn't do damage to the bridge. Structural
that-
damage.
It must
crossed
not
my
have, or
mind.
TDOT would not have opened it back up. I don't think.
Exactly. Speaking of traffic, a lot of street projects coming in Murfreesboro.
Well,
Move
yeah.
the traffic.
The council has been very dedicated to investing in roadway construction and enhancement because, of course, people, especially someone who grew up here, and they've seen the growth and they weren't used to the amount of traffic that we have. If you grew up in California like yourself,
I
you're
was
probably
there this weekend. And
yeah, you know what traffic is, but,
Exactly.
but around here, the traffic has grown very fast. And it does get congested at time, and it is hard to get across town. So part of that is enhancements to the infrastructure to improve that. There are, between this year and next year, probably more than 3 dozen different projects that will be underway. There's about a dozen that are underway this year or getting underway, and then another half dozen or more next year. And I'm talking about major projects
Sure,
that are
sure.
enhancing the roadways. One that you might recognize if you're on the west end of town is TDOT is involved now and with the city expanding Old Fork Parkway from I-24 to around Brinkley Road, a little past that, to 3 lanes.
That will certainly help.
And because there was a shoulder on each side, the city engineering, the public infrastructure director, Chris Griffith, went to TDOT and said, while you're doing that repaving, is there any way we could expand this to 3 lanes by using the shoulder? And we were able to be done. There a few places they're having to do some turn lane enhancements,
Exactly.
but that's going to help the flow that comes from the west end with more than 50,000 people who live across on that side of I-24 into downtown Murfreesboro.
Fantastic.
When that's completed. It should be completed by the end of August, early September.
How about has the transition from city to corporate electric distribution worked well for you?
Are you talking about Middle Tennessee
Correct.
Electric?
Correct.
Well, that's been a great partnership that the city had with MTE, and of course, people know the history. The city sold its electric department.
Right.
We're in the process now of investing those funds. Some of those immediately upon payment were invested in parks. The city is designing in the design phase and planning phase of a new park on the west end. So some of the money that came from the sale of Murfreesboro Electric went immediately to some of that planning and development. But MTE is a great partnership. In fact, one of the swaps, the land swap, to get the land for the West Park was land that was swapped to MTE for economic development on the other side of I-840. I think everything is going very well with that process, and I think both the company, the utility, and the city are excited about
And the
what
customers are certainly getting quality service
happened. Exactly.
at a reasonable rate. Where is the new park you were just describing?
Well, it will be off of Veterans,
Okay.
but then also close to I-840. Right now, it's pretty much open land that's near the backside of Berkshire, if you know that Berkshire subdivision. So Gresham Smith, the council recently signed off on a contract. They approved a contract for this Nashville firm to begin planning and developing that park with amenities and facilities that will be there. The assistant city manager, Sam Huddleston, has stated that it will mainly be the type of park amenities like a community park, not necessarily one where you might see ball fields. That's a different type of facility.
It's like
a
your
park
soccer
field.
facilities on the Northwest.
Right, which are needed in
Oh,
the city because of our growth.
certainly.
But this park will be mainly a community park. There is land that will be separated for a future school in the middle of that area. But you will see things like trails and walkways, maybe splash pads, whatever they come up with that would be part of a community park.
Do you see any increase of activity for senior citizens in the community in terms of community programming, housing, et cetera, for seniors?
Well, the citizens who don't know this should know, and in fact, I'm one because I turned 60 already. In fact, I'm fairly well past that. But the senior center, which is over on St. Clair, is part of our park system. It has all kinds of programming for seniors that begin at 60. And so if you're not knowledgeable about that, you can either drop by that facility or on the website. On our website, the senior center is located. And there's all kinds of they do traveling. They do indoor activities like physical activities, all kinds of gaming, different events that they have. There are meals provided on occasion for a very low rate. That is something, and that's one of the things about Murfreesboro that I think I have really come to appreciate, is that the city serves a lot of different populaces.
Correct.
Some people may not enjoy parks. They may not use them. They may not even be aware that we have a greenway that runs through the city with the ability to walk and run and enjoy the outdoors. That's one of the gems. One of the attractive things that we have. That when people come here and they go, look at this greenway system that runs through the middle of the city.
Very unusual.
Or a national park that's in the middle of Murfreesboro. Another amenity that we have that most cities don't have. But then there are other things that people may really want to enjoy, like a tennis complex that's over there at Old Fork. We're in the design phase. The parks director submitted a planning to our planning department, because as a city we still have to go through the planning process for a skate park at Old Fork Parkway. And so, not everybody is into skating, but there are a lot of young people that's what they enjoy, and there will be some really top-notch facilities there for people to do that. Skateboarding, yes.
Wow, what's the liability factor on that?
Good question.
I'm just thinking, how many broken arms and broken knees may occur when they hit the angle too high.
Have you ever seen them do that, where the professionals?
In California, I have.
Where they go up the ramp and flip over, and you think, if they fell, that would be the end of them.
And there would be a claim.
Right.
Financially, how's the city doing?
Very well, and it always has been very well
very
managed
prudent,
financially. And one of the things that people recognize about the city, it follows a certain group of conservative policies that they have to abide by. Council must abide by in budgeting. They've always wanted it to be that way. There is money set aside. Sometimes we hear about that as a rainy day fund, but money set aside, unfunded balance, just in case there is a downturn, and when there is, that the city could continue to operate based on that conservative planning and financing.
Or even the fact that with interest rates much higher than they were a year and a half ago, the investment of public funds into good investment certainly generates an income that would not be there if you didn't have a good investment policy.
Right. We have a finance director and the tax and finance folks that do that. They're professionally designed to try to invest money wisely, and also to make decisions. The city manager will make decisions on how much bond financing we might do in a particular year. When rates go much higher, when that bond financing is a little bit more challenging, then the city may back off a little bit on exactly how much we do. That may require that some projects get delayed, or that it's put off for some time. But you want to take advantage of the financing that is to your advantage, rather than getting yourselves deeper in debt.
With a very high interest rate.
With a higher interest rate. Well, it's similar to what we do in our own family financing.
Well, do you buy a house at a 6.5% when we were having a 3.5% home interest rate just a year ago?
Which is slowing down home buying in the home industry.
Has the construction slowed down in Murfreesboro? Well, residential?
That's an interesting. Permits are down, but what I'm hearing nationwide is that home building is still going strong, because the home builders look at the the statistics, and they say there's still a large group of people who need housing.
Mm-hmm.
So housing isn't the need for housing, or the need for the inventory hasn't decreased. What has changed is the increase in the pricing and the interest rates. So that slows the process. But when that returns, when the rates start going back down and the Federal Reserve begins to lower rates at some point, maybe early next year or into next year, then the need will still be there.
Well, that's also had a significant impact on rents. And in terms that if you buy property to rent and you had a 3.6 mortgage, and now you bought a piece of property at a 6.5 interest rate, that has a significant effect of what you have to charge for rent. And
Yeah, the rent went up in most communities for some time. There are indications it's starting to decline now because as housing is being built, the
Supply and
inventory is there,
demand
supply
is-
and demand, and that's a good thing because that's why we need to keep the supply up so that the housing cost comes down, especially for the younger people who are first-time home buyers.
Sure.
So you want to see that inventory built up.
Your partnership with MTSU, great relationship, great working relationship with Dr. McPhee and his team. Some projects, programs, activities related to MTSU?
Well, the recent addition of Middle Tennessee Boulevard that was expanded through there has really enhanced that campus. The campus is constantly growing like the city, it seems like, with new buildings and new institutions. I've always felt like, since I've been here, that the relationship between the city and Murfreesboro is like a brother-sister relationship. And one cannot really do well without the other. We depend on MTSU, and MTSU depends on us for the economy. And now that MTSU is the largest undergraduate institution in the state,
Exactly.
it's going to continue to draw students from across the state into our community. And the goal that the city has would be to keep a lot of those people in the jobs. For example, the city has 27 open jobs right now.
Wow.
And
how do people apply? Give
you-
a good word?
Yeah, one of them is an assistant city attorney that's available. There are technicians in the water department. There are attendants in the parks department, the Bradley Museum, a number of openings. And we're just the city government, when you think about all the businesses that exist in Murfreesboro, and some of them very large, like Amazon and others, they need employees. And they need people who come out of the university well-educated and want to stay in Murfreesboro as a place where they have a low cost of living and want to raise a family. So back to the issue that you were talking about, about jobs and openings, that relationship between the university and a growing city that is expected to grow well over 200,000 in the next, 5 to 10 years projected. We're at somewhere around 160. That's not the official.
Yeah, you and I
number
did
now.
the census, didn't we?
Right, which got that number up to
Absolutely.
near 160,000 based on the census.
So you said 200,000. When is that projected for?
I think I might have those exact figures here,
Oh,
but
great,
last
great.
projections that I saw, and sometimes these change, but in 2035 the projection was 228,000.
Wow.
Now whether we hit that or not, but if we're growing at the rate we are, it may indeed happen.
Well,
and that's
the-
just for the city.
The amount of area still underdeveloped, and you'll think along Veteran, and you think along different aspects of Murfreesboro. There's
The
still
I-840 area, which is
a lot of area.
the city seems to be growing that direction, and the city had foresight in making sure that Veterans Parkway was developed before all that occurred. And the whole I-840 corridor, which is expected to continue to grow with business development along that way. And part of the new park system will have some commercial development right there along Veterans near the interstate, which is already developing as you go out there with medical facilities.
Yes.
With a number of those that you can see there visually now that have opened up along that.
Well,
that
what you
corridor.
made reference to before, Mike, and I think is so very important, you don't have to commute up to Nashville on the I-24 for jobs, for restaurants, for housing, for entertainment, for sports, any activity. You have a island here which has everything and anything and all things. And I think that's, we take so much for granted, and we take our communities for granted. And I think this is an opportunity that people take a look and say, yes, I may have traffic on Church Street. Yes, I got to stop and start on Broad. But on the other hand, you can find literally everything from shopping to pleasure and entertainment right here in this community.
I'm a true believer that people vote with their feet. The reason why people want to come to Murfreesboro is because of the low cost of living and the really quality schools. Our schools open beginning Monday on a half day. There are so many people that are dedicated, hardworking people, the teachers, the administrators, the people that even do the crosswalk traffic service.
They smile.
In all the places.
Yes.
Because they believe in a city that is growing and that has the amenities that we offer. If people weren't coming here, the opposite of that is a city that's going the opposite direction, not growing, and you have all the byproduct of that.
Right. Blight and destabilization, high crime, etc.
Right. But if you're a growing community, you've got new development. It lifts the boats of other people. The jobs are here for people. The increases in pay wages are as a result of that as well. You have sometimes increased property taxes to pay for some of the services, but your home values are rising rather than decreasing.
Correct. Which is interesting. People say, oh, my taxes went up. Well, maybe your taxes were the same. It's just the value of your house has gone up. That's part of your estate. That's part of your worth, your value, etc. And if the assessor starts realizing that your home has increased 75% over the last few years, yes, it cost you more to pay your property tax, cost you more to pay your insurance, etc. But the value of your estate has gone up dramatically as well.
And then the equity that you build is part of maybe your future retirement or whatever that you do. And then people do, they vote with their feet. So a lot of times people decide, this is not the kind of lifestyle I want to live. I'd rather live in the country, and then they move to the country.
And then
where they can live on 4 or 5 acres,
and then the city follows them. I mean, there's a number of people that commute into Murfreesboro, Rutherford County, who are living in neighboring, more rural counties. They enjoy the waking up in the morning of that rooster. They enjoy seeing the cattle. They enjoy seeing the goats and the donkey, etc. And their commute. It still doesn't take that long to be in the country when you're in Murfreesboro.
And that's one of the things that I felt that is charming about Murfreesboro, even though it is a city and it's growing and it has those amenities. There are places that you can live here where you still feel like you're in the country, even though you have those city services.
Let's talk for a few minutes, and we'll be having in October the chief of police. But before we get into public safety, police and fire, we need to take a break, and we shall be right back. We are visiting this morning with Mike Browning, who's been almost 10 years the public information officer of the beautiful city of Murfreesboro. We'll return shortly.
Hi, this is Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. You might know me as the voice of the Blue Raiders, but I want to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Whether you're buying or selling, it's time to choose Chip. Do you have a growing family and need to upsize? Are you an empty nester now and need to downsize? Are you thinking of selling your current home but just worried you can't find something else? Well, it's time to choose Chip. I'm looking to be your trusted advisor in real estate. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
There's a lot of people out there talking about testosterone. You hear about treatment centers everywhere. But do your homework and go to a provider that you can trust, one that's been doing it for years. I recommend Low T Center on Medical Center Parkway in Murfreesboro. That's where I get my levels checked. At Low T Center, they make it quick and easy. Walk in, take a simple blood test, and then with their on-site lab, you get the results in 25 minutes. If you've been feeling tired, grumpy, weight gain, or loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone levels. Low T Center's not like a typical doctor's office where you have to wait a long time to see the doctor. Low T Center is concierge medicine exclusively for men. They have affordable and convenient options, including physician-monitored self-inject treatments that ship directly to your home each month. No need to drive to the center for weekly visits. Right now at Low T Center, it's only $25 to get your testosterone level tested. So what are you waiting for? Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by AmeriCare Pest Control and the law offices of John Day.
This is a paid legal ad.
Hi, this is John Day of the law offices of John Day. For more than 30 years, my team and I have worked hard to help injured people throughout Middle Tennessee. Over that time, we've helped thousands of people get the legal help they need when they've needed it the most. And if we're not able to help or aren't the right lawyer for you, we'll do the best to point you in the right direction. If you've been injured, call the law offices of John Day for a free consultation. And remember, there's no fee unless we win your case.
Now, WGNS Good Neighbor Events. Here in Tennessee, the tax-free period on food is going on right now for 3 months, and that includes groceries and restaurants. Steve Cates asked us to remind you the next Cripple Creek Cloggers dance class is Sunday, August 13th, 4:30 in the afternoon at the Smyrna Senior Center, and it's free. Oh, put this on your calendar. The second annual Peach Cobbler Festival is Saturday, August 12th, from 9 to 4. Peach Cobbler, oh boy, and that's at the Lane Agri Park. And toward the end of this month, the first annual Milton Power of the Past Antique Tractor and Farm Show, Saturday, August 26th, from 9 in the morning until 6 in the evening in the Milton community. There's a free grief support meeting every Wednesday morning at 10 at the St. Clair Street Senior Center. For more Good Neighbor events, go to our website, WGNSradio.com. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Good Neighbor weather. Periods of showers and thunderstorms this afternoon. Cloudy high in the mid-80s. Then for tonight, chance for showers and storms. Cloudy low near 72. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS. Currently, it's 74.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. Seriously looking at solar power generation? MTE offers a free consultation with an energy expert and has an entire library of educational resources. To learn more, visit mte.com/prosolar.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Hello again, Bill Krause on the Round Table on a Thursday morning, and we're having a delightful and highly, highly informative visit with the Public Information Officer of the City of Murfreesboro, Mr. Mike Browning, who will be celebrating shortly his 10 years with the city. How time flies when you're having fun.
It's hard to believe that it's been 10 years, but it's been a good 10 years.
And a lot has occurred. And one thing, and I will throw some kudos to Mike, many larger cities have a public information officer. In fact, my oldest son is the public information officer of the city of San Bernardino, California.
I wasn't aware of that.
So in fact, just coming back from Southern California this weekend, and I was kind of finding out what Jeff was doing. And, of course, San Bernardino has far more significant issues, primarily in crime, which brings us to the point. A growing city, a dynamic city, a city on I-24 and 840, a city with transient going through, a city with many diverse communities and populations. What's crime like? What's police protection like?
Well, the crime rate here is really low for per capita. I mean, obviously, if you have a city this size, you're going to have crime. You're going to have people that go outside the law, or you're going to have traffic collisions, even fatalities. But our law enforcement and first responders are unbelievable.
Excellent.
And they do an excellent job. In fact, I was involved a couple of weeks ago on a Friday, an active shooter mock where the police department was preparing for God forbid something like that might happen. But you have to be ready for it.
No question.
They were doing training, and the full thing was like it would occur, and how they would respond to that. So that's part of their training, of course. One of the challenges, admittedly, that emergency planners have had to deal with is just hiring people, getting people here, and that's improved to some extent. The council approved a 5% pay raise recently in the council as part of a grant process. So we have an SRO in every school. We're opening a new preschool on Cason Lane, the city schools, and there will be an SRO officer located at
even
that
in the preschool.
And I think that's something that the city and the police department, Chief Bowen, are really excited about and proud about. One thing I should tell people about is that we have a new system now, the Rutherford County Emergency Communications District, and that includes Murfreesboro, and Murfreesboro's 911 center now has the ability for people, if they're making a 911 emergency call, they can do it through text.
Wow.
So you just get on your phone and text to 911, regardless of whether you just put 911 or 9-1, but all you have to do is hit 911, and then whatever the text is, I need help, it will locate.
They'll track you.
It will
by
track
your
you,
phone.
locate you, and then you can communicate with whoever it is that answers that text. The reason for that, and the reason why the emergency folks are so excited about it, is because there are people that are in situations where they don't want to talk.
They don't want their voice to be
They
heard.
don't want their voice to be heard.
by,
Or they might even be in a car and be kidnapped and need to let someone know that they're in a dangerous situation. And
or they're
can communicate.
injured and not quite sure of their
can't speak or the
condition.
Yeah. So this is something that has started. It's been unveiled by the Rutherford County Emergency Communications District, and it's in operation now. So if you need
I'd be
to text,
very
you can.
curious to find out results of it. I'd be very curious to find out the experience with it, based upon what you said, Mike, of who are the users of 911 going through the text.
And it has existed in other places, and the usage is lower, of course, because people are so accustomed to
just
dialing
calling,
911 and being on the phone. But it has been proven in certain places to help people who were in that situation where they didn't want to talk, but they wanted to communicate where they were and what was going on.
Chief Bowen will be a guest on the round table toward the latter part of October, so I'm looking forward to having another Mike coming on the mic.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good tone, Mike on the mic.
Yeah, or the Mike and Mike show.
The
Wasn't
Mike
there? I
and
think
Mike
there's
on
a
a mic.
sports program that's been around for
We've got to
years.
talk about that for you. Yeah. Fire, how's the fire department?
Well, the city manager just appointed a new fire chief.
Okay.
He had been the interim chief for some time, Mark McCluskey, who is a Murfreesboro native. In fact, you were talking about baseball earlier, or we were, and Mark McCluskey, he told me during a podcast, we do podcasts for the city every month. We welcome you to go on there. You can find them on the website. Just go down to the bottom, look for podcasts, look for YouTube videos. But the chief told me that he was a baseball player for Bill Shacklett.
Oh,
Bill Shacklett, the councilman,
vice
who
mayor.
has been a baseball coach for 40 years.
Okay.
And I understand continuously. So he's not only dedicating public service to his community as a councilman, but also as a coach with youth.
And not
I
a
think
bad
that's
photographer
wonderful.
as well.
But Mark McCluskey has been with the fire department for 38 years. So he knows it inside and out from the emergency side and the firefighting side, and has seen a lot of change. And if you want to know more about his background and some of the activities that the fire department is involved in, you can go look at the podcast. One thing, or a couple things we should be proud of is, one, that it is a nationally accredited fire department, which is a huge process.
Sure.
It takes a lot. The other is that we have an ISO rating of 1.
Which that's
the insurance
rare,
rating
so
of
rare.
1, which means that your insurance rates for fire protection are much lower than they would be in a city that doesn't have an ISO.
Well, that
rating.
means you've got fire stations throughout the community, your fire hydrant, your water pressure, your water system, all subtly contributes to that.
Sounds like you know what you're talking about there. You've been there, done that, haven't you?
Yes, I have. And to get a 1 rating, people of Murfreesboro should be extraordinarily proud. That is so difficult to do, difficult, especially in a growth city. If you're a stable city, you haven't really changed much. your fire station locations, your hydrants, your water pressure, your water system, your equipment, etc. It stays relatively stable and it's predictable. But for a growth city to be able to keep up with it and be at that point, 5 extra gold stars
It's remarkable.
for Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
It really is.
And we have
really
a
is.
public safety training center that helps train not only our firefighters, but some firefighters who don't have the ability for training around this location, so in the county and outside counties.
And you have an excellent relationship with Murfreesboro City Schools. We had the superintendent or the director of schools on about 3 months ago. Wonderful young man. And
Dr. Trey Duke?
Yes, he was terrific. And he, just you could be so proud. And with the growth within the schools, so same with Rutherford County schools. I don't know how many people are very blessed here in Rutherford County and Murfreesboro with an outstanding leadership at both the public school systems.
We have an excellent school system, and the reason why, as I said before, so many people are moving to Murfreesboro because of that system. If someone is a parent of a student in the Murfreesboro City Schools and they want to just be well informed, you can go on our YouTube page, and Dr. Trey Duke is up there, one of the most recent videos. He has a 6-minute video in which he communicates directly to parents over that 6 minutes some of the things they need to know going into the new school year.
And one of the areas, and you mentioned police officers in terms of attempting to raise the pay to attract, that's a real issue, is attracting teachers in the public school. That's always been a profession that many people direct themselves to, but there's a real shortage today. And in fact, school districts, not only in Middle Tennessee, throughout the country, having to recruit retirees back into the classroom just to be able to fill the classroom.
And we have some really quality educators within our system. And an example of that is Don Barch, who was the principal. He's now going to be working in administration, but for a number of years he was principal at Overall Creek Elementary School. He is a finalist for the State Principal of the Year.
Wow.
And he is from the Murfreesboro School District, and they had a STEM program, I think they call it STEM, at Overall Creek, where they teach science and math and really facilitate that, and he's been recognized for that.
That is terrific. Have you had a problem recruiting and retaining employees in the city, and not only in public safety, but in public works and parks, recreation, and general government?
Yeah, it has been a challenge, but the Human Resources Department is actively working to try to recruit. They're doing a number of job fairs. They do whatever they can to try to get people in. And I'm somewhat near the HR department, and I see all the people coming in to apply for jobs. I hear some of the people on the phone that are taking the calls for applications. And so the activity is ongoing. And there are a number of job openings, as I said, with the city, 27 jobs right now that people can apply for, but those jobs are being filled because the benefits we have are so good.
Well, it's one step further. You know, if people took the time to pencil out, okay, the salary benefits may be a little lower than in Metro, Nashville, Davidson, but what's the commute worth? What's your time worth? What's the psychological aspect of commuting 24 miles and stop, start, stop, start, stop, start?
You know, I did that commute for a number of years, working in broadcasting and then for the Department of Safety and Homeland Security. And I got used to it, even though sometimes it would be 2 hours trying to come back home if there was a crash like there was this morning on I-24.
But that was over 10 years ago.
I remember my wife telling me when I started working in media relations at MTSU before I came to the city, she said, when you don't have to do that commute anymore, you're going to notice a difference. And I was still in my 50s at the time, and I thought, oh, that's nothing. You know, I'm used to it. I enjoy it. You know, listen to the radio. But it made a marked difference in my life not have to make that commute.
Well, you know, it's interesting, as you made reference to earlier, that I spend most of my life in Southern California. And when I talk to students, and specifically students who plan to become teachers, and they hear the starting salary of a teacher in the Los Angeles Unified School District, close to $70,000, they say, where do I apply? Where do I apply? I said, stop a moment and start calculating what your cost will be.
Like a $2,500 small home for a mortgage, right?
Easily. Yeah. Or a state income tax of 10, 12%. Or costs, in fact, when I filled up for gas to turn the rental car in on Monday, $5.50 a gallon. And
it all adds up, doesn't it?
It does add up. It does add up. Food costs. I mean, so 70,000, I guess I would probably correlate it with maybe 45, 48,000 here. And psychologically, you know, if people have to put up with what they have to put up with, it just is not worth it. Not worth it. Calculate it out. Do you have future predictions besides your population projections? Where do you see Murfreesboro going in terms of more high-density residential, more balance of neighborhood, again, more intrusion of businesses, the availability of more restaurants, stores, etc., more job opportunities? Do you see Murfreesboro growing physically? Any annexations going to the east or going to the south?
You know, the first thing I would say is you've heard the expression, that's above my pay grade.
Okay.
I would say that, first of all, because those are decisions made by the city council and city planners who are much more adversed and experts in that kind of thing than myself. But the one thing that I've observed, and you're seeing now happening with council, every community has its limitations.
Yes.
And one of our limitations is in the amount of water that we're able to access. You know, the water director, Darren Gore, who's also an assistant, the city manager, is working very hard and making accomplishments in expanding that expansion
Capacity,
that we need
yes.
in the capacity. But you will find limits, and I think somewhat the goal of the council, you know, they've tried to reduce the number of apartment units to some extent in some areas, because when you have that, you're going to have the need for infrastructure, right?
Correct.
You have to have more schools. You need more roadways. You need more water capacity. So I think we may go into a period more where there is an attempt to kind of slow the growth down. You know, you still want growth and the amenities that come with it, but you don't want it to get to the point where the cost is too high. You know, and that's usually a fine line. Like, how do you need to manage that well in order to have growth, but yet not have too much growth to where the cost is too high.
I used to draw the analogy to those of us like myself who eat too fast. And you eat quickly and you're eating, then indigestion occurs. And I call it municipal indigestion. That you've grown too fast.
Unintended consequences.
Grown too fast, and then you suffer that bellyache the following night. There's so much going for Murfreesboro, and one of the interesting things, again, going back to traffic, when the vice mayor was here on the air a few months ago, he was describing, remembering when the 24 was being built, and it stopped at the county line. And there was a whole group of people opposing the extension of I-24 beyond the Davidson-Rutherford County line, and they wanted traffic to continue on Broad Street on 41. Can you imagine what Broad Street would be today if you didn't have the 24?
Yeah, the traffic count on Broad Street is very high now. And there are some attempts being made to try to slow that speed at the downtown area. The planners are involved in, daylighting Town Creek, that it's under a culvert there, and that process is ongoing. They're acquiring the property along Broad Street. There is a desire to try to slow that down to improve with a park in that location. And sometimes when you slow traffic down, it becomes a deterrent to people who want to travel too fast through an area. They find other alternatives. Our traffic engineer has often told me, when I say, well, what are we going to do about that? And he says some of that is resolved by traffic pattern, that people make decisions to go around certain things in order to solve their own problem to some extent.
When you begin to think of growth and you begin to think of opportunity and you begin to think, and I don't know how many of our listeners are very much aware that Murfreesboro is the exact center of the state of Tennessee.
Yes, it always has been.
Yes, I would hope, let's say, unless Georgia got the way to realign the state boundary when they were looking for water on the Tennessee River a few years ago. But it's the exact center, and it's not only the center geographically, it's a lot of the center of the ideal place to live.
It's interesting you say that because Tennessee itself as a state is a crossroads state. Mm-hmm. I think it's surrounded by 9 other states.
Right.
It's pretty much in the middle of at least the south eastern side, or the side of the Mississippi River, and that has a lot of benefits that just come by the consequence of where the location is, because it is a crossroads. You have a lot more economic development opportunities here for companies that want to locate here, so they have the ability to reach their markets easy.
What's interesting, the number of people in Murfreesboro already living here who have started their own businesses. A lot of incubator businesses have begun in Murfreesboro and have led into quality retail stores and quality beginning manufacturing, beginning professional advice, counseling, medical assistance, in-home care. So people's imagination, creativity, and innovativeness is one of the resources that you have in Murfreesboro.
Yeah, there are a lot of small businesses that are initiated and have been initiated here. You see them popping up all the time on the main corridors, and maybe part of that's a byproduct of the fact that if you have a low cost of living, people can save more money and then make that decision to invest in their own business.
Give us an advance headline, and all you need is the 12-point headline prior to our September 5th meeting, when much of the meeting will be discussing downtown redevelopment. What do you see for downtown redevelopment in the years ahead?
Well, there's a desire by the council and the mayor, I think, to try to create more downtown living. Mm-hmm. There is a company now out of Nashville, a group of investors that have proposed and presented to the council a number of times a mixed-use redevelopment right along Broad Street that would develop. It hasn't been finally signed off on by council, but it's very close in that process, that would develop mixed use, some increased housing, both condos and apartments. Mm-hmm. And I think part of it's even the relocation of WGNS to across the street from Church Street, because a lot of this would be used. And that's part of the whole idea of developing the park along Broad Street and then redeveloping the area on the other side of Broad. Broad Street was part of urban renewal, and it cut through the city. And now you look back, and it may not have been the best idea. It might have been then, but today there's a desire to try to redevelop downtown in a way that makes it. If you don't have a solid, growing, vibrant downtown, the mayor has said this a number of times, it's not beneficial to your city. You want to continue to have that. We have the charm. Mm-hmm. Now what we want is more people who see it as a destination with hotels and living.
Well, your town square is certainly creating a vitality. There's a vibrancy that you can see. That's very paramount to so many towns, large and small, in Tennessee and throughout the South and much of the Midwest, where you have a town square. Some have become very vibrant. Some have become blighted. But you have, when I say you, the city of Murfreesboro has done a remarkable job of having the square, the plaza, if you want to call it, using Southern California terms, becoming very vibrant. And with the kind of mixed-use development, it's going to be very successful.
And you recognize something that has only happened in the last about 10 years or less.
Which is
the vibrancy, because there are more restaurants and more activities that can be enjoyed downtown.
Which is the time you've been with the city of Murfreesboro.
About that time.
It's got to be a relationship.
You're seeing it change where more and more people want to develop and have businesses here.
Thank you, Mike Browning, the Public Information Officer for the beautiful, wonderful, centralized city of Murfreesboro. You've come a long way as a city, and there's a wonderful future for all 160,000 residents today. And we wish you continued huge success in these great endeavors ahead.
Well, I thank the people for making it a great community.
We'll see you next week, folks. Bye now.
Thanks, Bill.